Someone asked me, do you need multiple cups for multiple ancestors on an ancestral altar? We start this off always with your ancestors come first. You do not need multiple cups on your ancestral altar and multiple candles for the multiple ancestors on your altar. One cup goes for the ancestors, one candle goes for the answers. That's in totality. Unless an ancestor has stepped forward and has requested something specific for themselves to be added to your ancestral altar, you do not add separate things for them. When you go into your ancestral line, there's so many back there that there is no way possible that you will be kept without forgetting someone on some certain day, time, or event. So we do things in a totality fashion for the ancestors. That way nobody is missed, nobody's overlooked, and no one is ignored. There is no one person in the ancestral line that is more important than the other. There is no one ancestor that is in charge of all of the rest of the ancestors. When we say we put an ancestor in charge, that's to guard the gate. That's not to guard the rest of the ancestors. The gate goes from spirit to you. So they are in charge of your gate, but they're not in charge of the rest of those ancestors. Everybody has free will in spirit and in death and in life and in truth, right? So across the board, there's free will that is still allowed, but they don't have to have access to you. That's when that guardian that you have placed, assigned to guard your gate comes into play. They are still not in charge of the other ancestors. They are still not to have a special seating place or placement on your altar. We don't want to cause discord of any kind within the unit, right? The goal ultimately, High Boy Venus, is always to have your ancestors become elevated, right? Some of them are already elevated because they've lived rather decent lives, right? Some of them are not so elevated because their lives were not so decent, and so they still have work to do in order to help them become elevated. So the more things that we do to elevate the ancestors as a whole, they automatically, those ones that are not as in light, get pulled up, because remember, energy, right? And if it's you that's elevating, then it's pulling up your entire bloodline as you go. That is the purpose of us doing the work, so that all of those souls, all of those spirits that come to work with us on the other side of the veil, that are part of our blood lineage, that gets born back into our family line, when they come back, they are already strong. They're doing the work, and it allows you to now, when you come back into this realm, the hope, right? The goal is that you remember what you came here to do. You remember what your assignment was when you got here, so that you guys are on a better footing going forward with your lives, right? So there is not a separate cup for multiple ancestors. There are not separate candles on your altar for your ancestors. And there is no ancestor that is more important than the other. Nor is there an ancestor that is in charge or that can tell the rest of the ancestors what they can and cannot do. If they don't want to elevate, they don't have to elevate. They will just not be allowed access to anything that you're doing that comes in light and spirit and truth. They will not be allowed access to you or your spirit, hey Chamo, unless they have agreed to elevate and vibrate on a higher frequency and come to do the right things and work on the things that they messed up in the past. A lot of times there'll be an ancestor that was horrible in life that'll come to you in death and be ready and willing to now fight for you the hardest, even though they did you wrong in life. Why? Because they had to answer for the reasons why they did the things that they did in life, right? The human part is now stripped away. They are now back to spirit. Human aspects of us clouds a lot, if not the majority of the things that we came here to do as spirit beings, right? So once that shell is stripping, all of the emotions and the attachments and the worldly things are no longer there. So that spirit now has the ability to recognize its wrongdoings and the things that they messed up on. So they'll come back in spirit now, ready to work harder for you, which because that builds them and it helps them elevate and it helps them grow.